Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Tuesday, March 26th, 2019. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We'll get right started here just real quick, but I wanted to start with a programming note. Mari had released a video today that was once again covering the floods in the Midwest, and particularly some more unfortunate footage of grain silos. And I'm not going to show very much of this here, but the reason why we had to re-upload our update was that we were being threatened with a copyright, and it was just for a section of video that was showing the up-close damage of these grain silos that were underneath water, and where these silos had, clearly they're damaged. It's 100% loss. So not only is the crops we're going to be washed away anyway, the flooding of the water into the fields, now you have the grain that was going to be used to be planting no longer any good. And one's got to wonder that we've talked about what's happening in Nebraska and then this footage in Iowa, and it's starting to make you wonder a little bit the cost of loss out there, over $3 billion and rising. And each time we go on the air live, we talk about the situation over here, and it's just concerning that we had to edit out. Essentially, the only way we could get away with our report today for our solar update and in the headlines that Mari reads, we had to edit out the footage of the silos that were in floodwater. Some of them were busted open, so the grain was obviously exposed, contaminating every single one of them. I doubt, even if there was anything salvageable, not enough to help the cause at all. So very tragic situation right now that we're experiencing. And another thing too, before I go into tonight's report live, very disappointing to see some people out there who we fully trust and rely on for information and resources. There's people out here that are just trying to say, hey, this is a flood and these floods happen, and blah blah blah. And we already have concerns right now. People are paying attention to this stuff, and they're seeing the food costs going up. We were talking about it earlier in the chat when we released the video originally, talking about food. When we see food prices, I believe TSM Solar Observations was in there, and I think he said immediately, and I agreed. We've been at several restaurants where it just feels like you're spending anywhere from $8 to $15 more per outing now when it comes to taking a family of 4 out. I mean, even going to McDonald's, the price has risen to almost $30, $27 to be exact, for 2 adult meals and 2 happy meals with medium drinks and comes out to $27. So yeah, I think we are seeing food increase, and we just don't really pay attention to it. And now, with the recent damage of Nebraska and Iowa, and how bad the situation is, some of these folks are still waiting for payments for 2018 damage as well. So one's got to wonder if the information that we're trying to communicate to you guys is being suppressed or being censored, because we recorded the audio for this earlier this morning, and it's been a battle all day to get this report put out. And then once it was finally approved, they had demanded again to take the information out, the visuals that we were showing, or it was going to be a copyright takedown. So for those of you who had questions on why this video is re-uploaded from earlier, I just want to clarify, it certainly feels like right now that the information is being suppressed. And on a lighter side of this, at the end of the video, Mari is promoting her hilarious creation of her latest t-shirt with Al Gore, and the question says "me lie?" question mark with Al Gore with a Pinocchio nose. Now, Every time we do a parody on Al Gore, this is a coincidence, I have to say. I can't prove it, but it's a coincidence. Every time we do something that involves with maybe poking a little fun at Mr. Gore, our channel gets messed with hardcore. The Pink Floyd situation, you guys remember that? Where we got copyright takedown for using we were making fun of Al Gore's 24-hour whatever fest he was having, and we used obvious footage from a band that wasn't Pink Floyd, claiming that these were the bands that were playing at Gore's festival. Horrible cover, terrible cover, and BMG personally filed a claim against us, and then we did a little digging. And the funny part is that we found out, we saw a bunch of pictures on the internet of Al Gore and the CEO of BMG. So you tell me, folks, the video where we're slamming Al Gore's event, hardcore, I thought it was funny. That same video, BMG comes out of nowhere and files a copyright strike for rebroadcasting a horrible rendition of what song was it? Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd. And I gotta be honest with you guys, since that show, I've been bitter. I don't even listen to Pink Floyd anymore. That's how much it's bittered me. I used to love that band. And then we had the Christmas ordeal where Mari had made a Christmas classic with Mr. Al Gore as the Grinch himself. Very tasteful, not too ad hominem, but very tasteful. Nonetheless, we were harassed with that as well. Several issues with posting it to YouTube. So it could be a coincidence that that was a video that we mentioned with Al Gore. It also is a coincidence that the footage that is being asked to be removed is some serious, sobering, okay, this is real footage of these silos that are underwater, that are damaged from the floodwaters and will not be usable for this upcoming season. All right, so let's get into the thick of things here tonight. Green New Deal vote, glaciers growing, lots to report. GSM News, the Grand Solar Minimum channel. And, of course, thank you to my producer, Mari, for always coming up with the lovely meme of the night. This one's pretty accurate. All right, there is the video if you guys want to watch along while we're looking at the articles. Our solar wind speed tonight for our space weather section is coming in at a 353 even kilometers per second with a density of 20. And right now we are not looking at any sunspots on our sun, and we'll go ahead and play this and zoom in to the front facing. That is now 54 days in 2019 without a sunspot. We did have some action for the last few days, but that is now exiting earth facing areas. And also, oh, I love it when I do that. You gotta love apples. Well then.
What'd you do, G?
I sideswiped something I shouldn't have sideswiped. But I was also, what I was getting into though, showing the SDO motion before this, we see our solar flares continuing to dive bomb. Well, that's just because we are now looking at the sun, or the sunspot that was giving us so many issues, the C-class flares, the CIR, nothing traumatic. No, everybody's alive and well, so just some minor solar events from this last bit of action. A lot was made of this sunspot that we had. That was sunspot number 49, as high as I saw it get. And some impressive C-class flares for this part of a minimum. I get it. But yet, folks have to stay focused on the fact that that this is not uncommon to see C-class events, and in my opinion, it could have been worse than that. And to me, this is still a sign that our sun is going to sleep. So nothing to be alarmed about. We will get this kind of information from time to time. While I'm waiting for Grand Solar Minimum news real quick, I wanted to point out one day of current spotless days in a row, 54 for the year. Our KP is sitting at 2, and our 24-hour max is sitting at a 3. And let's see if we've got, oh, well, we've got the other side of the sun back. So let's go ahead and check it out. Do we see any more activity? No, not right now. But the last sunspot that we had just appeared out of nowhere. So this looks like a pretty quiet sun. Some possibilities of some coronal holes, some light activity in the southern region of the sun on the other side, but right now nothing to speak of. So it's possible we will see consecutive days in a row without sunspot activity. And taking a look at our TSI reading for March 17th, 2019, came in at 1360.6902. So again, some fluctuation with the TSI here as of late compared to what we've seen in the past. It has not been this much fluctuation of the TSI as we go back to February and January. I mean, this was pretty much the movement here, the waves, and we didn't see this extreme up and down roller coaster, not even back here. So interesting stuff that we're looking at here with the TSI. It was leveling out, staying pretty quiet, and here lately it's been kind of fluctuating. But again, when we're talking about between 1360.69 and 1360.70, so we're not talking about leaps and bounds here, nothing to be alarmed about or anything like that. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our world news headlines. At least 18 killed, more than 90 injured as violent flash floods hit Shiraz, Iran. Now, I saw the footage for this on Twitter, and it is absolutely horrifying. At least 18 people have been killed and 94 injured after heavy rain hit the city of Shiraz, southern Iran on Monday, March 25th, causing severe flash flooding. Heavy rain started falling in the historic city of Shiraz, Fars province on Monday morning, producing sudden and violent flooding in which at least 18 people lost their lives. Flash floods started from the hills around the city in a matter of minutes, inundating parts of the city. The chief coroners of the city said that 6 men, 7 women, and 3 children were confirmed dead in the floods, and dozens of people have been taken to hospitals with injuries. Head of Iran Police Information and Traffic Control Center, Nadir Rahmani, she said the flood has carried away more than 200 vehicles, though the exact number is not yet clear. He said the heavy rains were expected and preparations had been made days in advance, but many of the people did not heed the warnings. In addition, the speed of the floods surprised them all. Here's just a little bit of some of the footage here of the rushing water. This is minor compared to some of the inner city images that we received, where some people were stranded out in the middle of the street and were not able to hang on and lost. Were also pushed down the currents. Let's see if I can find that footage. According to state-run Press TV, the northern provinces of Golestan and Mazandaran have been struggling with flooding for over a week, and 5 people have been killed. 56,000 have been affected. So this has been a problem for quite some time, folks. They have been dealing with these conditions for over a week. And like I said yesterday, I saw footage that had people who were trying to hold on to a tree of some sort while water at least waist high. Now imagine it not just waist high, but at a very fast current. And unfortunately, some people lost their grip and they were pretty much carried away by the current. We could only pray and hope that they were able to somehow be rescued safely. But guys, when you see fast-moving floodwaters like that, you don't want to chance it. Don't try to cross it. Very powerful currents, and it's even in cars. Once your car is lifted up and carried away, it's in God's hands at that point. So if you are aware, please heed the warnings. And the cheesy saying of turn around, don't drown is absolutely 100% spot on. We'll leave the link on our page. Thanks to the watchers for their great coverage once again. And this has actually been I've seen this all over today. Just about everybody and their mother is talking about this. Greenland's fastest flowing and fastest thinning glacier is growing once again. Thank God. Thank God that there's articles like this coming out. I also saw this one on, or What's Up With That also wrote up a piece on this as well. Guys, this is big in many ways because, we all know 2018 was not that greatest year for growth, and 17 especially. But when you talk to just an average person out there, at the conversation that I had about 2 weeks ago. And when I told them that the glaciers aren't melting in the Arctic, they looked at me and just, waved their hand at me like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy. Now I have more proof, and not just showing them the northern hemisphere snow mass charts and all the ice growth and everything, but now we're starting to see it show up in our press. Thank you. Because you're not going to hear about this in mainstream media. It goes against everything that talks about, polar bears dying because of lack of glacier ice and stuff like that. So articles like this are proving that you're being lied to by the majority of the people in the mainstream media. So it's up to channels like us. I saw other channels who are covering this as well on YouTube. This is just, we don't do touchdown dances here, but when you see articles like this is our touchdown dance, I guess you could say, when you're reading things like this. And you guys can read about it here on watchers.news. I just wanted to bring it up because, we always see the starving polar bears and how they're dying. And, the pictures from Russia where the bears were invading a town because it's too warm in the Arctic. But in fact, what they're not telling you in the mainstream media is that these polar bears are increasing by almost 400%, according to Alaskan Inuits. So you talk to the local up there, and they'll tell you, hey, they're overflowing right now. 400% increase, guys. Think about that. What's the normal polar bear population, and then it increases to 400%? Yeah, I'd say there's a food shortage going on. Definitely not an ice shortage. Again, articles like this shows that we are Charlie Sheening it, winning. All right, moving right along. Veronica dumps more than a year's worth of rain in less than 12 hours. How many times have we talked about stories like this? Since 2016 at least, and they really have gone on an uptick in 2018, and so far 2019 is carrying that story as well. Reading here from watchers.news, the wind and very heavy rainfall have now eased. However, road conditions may remain hazardous today, and communities may be isolated as flood continues. Flood watches and warnings remain in place for localized flooding in parts of the central and west Pilbara coast and adjacent inland areas, particularly around Marble Bar. Excuse me. On the back of a 1 in 100 year 24-hour total of 14.17 inches was recorded at Upper North Pole in 24 hours to 900 yesterday. More heavy rain fell in 24 hours to 900 today, with Upper North Pole recording a further 2.4 inches of rain. So, well over 2.5 feet of rain has fallen in just around 48 hours. 24 to 48 hours. Incredible amounts. Mari talked a little bit about the dual cyclones that hit Australia. Ex-tropical cyclone Veronica continues moving west-southwest parallel to the Pilbara coast, but it's not expected to re-intensify, thankfully. However, more showers are expected about the western Pilbara coast today before easing later in the day. You can see all the weather info here from the BOM. Thank you, watchers.news. I always mess it up and call you guys weather.news, but hey, let's face it. You guys could probably start a sister station called weather.news and make that all about weather, and the watchers could be about crop loss and volcanoes and earthquakes. But hey, who am I? Anyway, we'll leave the link in the description on our article here. And then the Whale Bridge destroyed. Extremely heavy rains hits New Zealand, South Inland. Big time rain, guys. Cosmic ray influx. How many times do we have to talk about this? Let's pause this for a minute here. So we have flooding in Australia, big time flooding in Australia, dual cyclones hitting the region. All right, look at these pictures. Do these look familiar to you? Here's the Midwest. As Mari documented today, look at this. Okay, let's compare it to what we're looking at on watchers worldwide. Here's New Zealand. Not quite as epic, but that's pretty bad right there. I'd say the water's high. Here's Veronica. Look at the pictures from here. And of course, we got the Midwest here in the United States. Iowa, Nebraska. And other places are bracing for a bad flood season. Why? Simple. And I'm going to break off topic real quick before I read this article from, excuse me for the fast scrolling, guys, but there's a point to be had here. So we're talking about why are we getting all this flooding, huh? Why are we getting all this flooding? Well, look at where we were this year for total snow mass in the northern hemisphere. Okay, most parts of the United States, we were looking at snow lines, and I'll go ahead and zoom in here, and we'll talk about the areas. Recently, we have seen this snow line melt as of recent. Let's move that down so we can keep that in the picture. All right, good. So here we are. This snow line is, likely so. It's March. We're almost in April, so we're spring. But this snow line was a lot heavier, and Mari, especially in Colorado, was also showing me some incredible snowpack and concerns of continuing flooding issues, especially for places like Colorado. Are we talking about the same level of flooding in Colorado that we're seeing in Iowa and Nebraska once Colorado starts to level out and warm up? I mean, because let's face it, Colorado you guys get warm temperatures. It gets hot.
Yeah, what was it? 144% over
That's
average.
what it was.
So I'm not familiar with that area enough to know. I know the issues that we have faced with rapid snow melt in Buffalo when it comes to floods.
That was a nightmare.
And ice jams and that kind of stuff. So I worry for all the areas that are over capacity with precipitation right now. It's going to be a rocky spring, and the most concerning part for me is whether or not we're going to dry out quick enough for our farms to be able to get things going in the ground on time.
I mean, this is what Mari and I were, we watched it soar up to right here, and I just remember thinking, wow, like, look at this. I mean, this is not just record high. This is off the charts. And, of course, now we're starting to see that downward trend. We're heading into spring. This is average. But really impressive snow amounts this winter. So if you ask me, we got Greenland talking about ice sheets that are growing back thicker. We've seen more snow cover this year in the United States. And also, now we're dealing with these large snowpacks that are melting. And of course, with the weather systems that we keep getting right now coming through these same areas, well, Mother Nature's not helping either. So this is something we talk about in the grand solar minimum scheme of things. But this is on a regular basis. Once the grand solar minimum starts, this is a kind of seasons we can expect year in and year out, and getting worse by the year, by the decade. So if this is only the beginning and just an appetizer, imagine what we're going to be like when we are truly in the grand solar minimum. A lot of us believe it's going to be in the 2030s. Some people believe it's going to be now, which I'm going to disagree and say we're at least looking at solar cycle 26 at the beginning. Possibly some people even have it going as 2041 being the beginning of the grand solar minimum. But I do believe that each decade we approach the 2030s, the 2040s, we're getting deeper and deeper with less solar activity each cycle. 24, one of the weakest cycles in almost 200 years. Now, you got some scientists predicting that it could be, cycle 25 could be slightly stronger than 24. I'm not really concerned about a cycle that is slightly stronger than one of the deepest or one of the lowest solar minimums or solar cycles we've came out of in the last 200 years. I'm not really worried about that. It's what's going to happen afterwards, because a lot of it's, from what I understand, is happening has been happening and will continue to happening. I see no reason why that this decline will not continue. And some of you folks out there may see this as a warming trend, a new plateau, and you're allowed to have that opinion. But I think at this channel, the correlation between solar activity and climate are very relevant, and we continue to show correlations between lower solar activity and climate. And this year, perfect example, as we head into this minimum, we're seeing lack of sunspots. The atmosphere is cooling because of cloud nucleation from highly charged particles seeding our atmospheres, creating more cloud coverage, bouncing back what lower TSI we're already receiving into space, not allowing the warmth to be fully absorbed by our planet. It's I don't understand where people call folks like myself climate change denier. It's not about the climate change that I'm denying. It's about your belief. It's about your scientific proof that you think that man causes this. And then we look at information like this that's related to natural cycles, and go figure, all along it's been natural. So that means we're being taxed for nothing. So yeah, there's kind of a dual mission here at Grand Solar Minimum Channel. One is to show the correlation of solar effects on our planet's climate, and the other is to expose this fraud of a tax that we've been paying for 30 years now through taxes. Taxes on your gas, taxes on your electricity, taxes on everything that goes back towards anything that puts emissions in the air. Because we've been told for the last 30 years that it's us that's doing this. I'm thankful for this channel. I'm thankful for the support. We have lots of subscribers. We have lots of people that help out with this channel on a daily basis. And, you know, when you have people who help with information like we do, it makes it easy to broadcast it and carry it to you guys, because you guys are helping us find the actual source. And I also have a link I want to share as well that has to do with something very important here that I'm going to show you guys. Before we go into climate news, last headline for world news: Wallow Bridge destroyed as extremely heavy rain hits New Zealand and South Island. Heavy rain over the past 2 days caused record levels in the river of the west coast of New Zealand, South Island. In less than 48 hours, parts of the region recorded 21.6 inches of rain, nearly 10% of its yearly average. More than 11.8 inches of rain fell in just over 24 hours. So Australia and New Zealand dealing with 20 plus inches of rain in a short period of time. And, you know, we add this to the list of flooded out areas: United States, Australia, Iran, New Zealand. It's worldwide, folks. Leave the links on our article. Guys, we'll be right back here. Don't go anywhere. Alright, we're back to the climate news part of this. Tonight's report's a little short, sweet, to the point. But it's time to let the cat out of the bag here. I've been reading a few things. GOP Florida Rep Matt Gaetz, I think that's his name, Gaetz, is preparing to introduce Green Real Deal resolution to contrast with Democratic New York Rep AOC and her Green New Deal, according to Politico. Ocasio-Cortez unveiled a resolution on February 7th that immediately faced criticism for its scope and potential cost, which reached towards tens of trillions of dollars. And that's not even really, that's not the truth either. It's higher than that. A draft of Gaetz's resolution obtained by Politico recognizes risks to the U.S. From climate change, citing Department of Defense reports that identify certain military... It's Gaetz.
I think it might be
Gaetz. Let's just go with Gaetz then. I'm saying Gaetz. Phew, it's a long day, fellas.
I'm sorry,
Long day. Climate change creates new risks and exacerbates existing vulnerabilities in community across the United States, presenting growing challenges to human health. Energy lobbyists have seemingly received copies of Gates' resolution, are beginning to line up behind it in support. Congressman Gates deserves applauded for taking the lead and crafting a bold resolution that identifies actionable climate solutions that will benefit America's economy, environment, and national security. Now, they want to, legislation takes wide-ranging approach to cutting emissions through investing in fossil fuel carbon capture technology. New and updated nuclear and hydropower placements. Basically, more dams, more hydro. Hydro definitely is probably one of the better selections. But what I wanted to point out is that we were worried the last time we did a report. We talked about how Republicans, please do not make a, a compromise Green New Deal. I don't have a problem with legislature that wants to invest in carbon capture technology, especially when scientists can now convert carbon into coal and reuse that energy and recapture it and reuse it, continue to pull it from the atmosphere. So I'm okay with investing money in new fossil fuel carbon capture technology. I'm also okay with new and updated nuclear and hydropower placements, making the power grid more efficient and granting energy companies improved access to public islands. Nowhere in this Republican-driven legislature does it talk about cutting out gasoline engines. Does it talk about getting rid of airplanes? Does it talk about farting cows? Does it talk about banning hamburgers? Does it talk about just building train tracks across the ocean and taking, trips across the ocean through a train? But this is a responsible approach to dealing with man-made emissions. Now, we understand that not everybody's going to be on board with what we believe when it comes to how small of an impact that man-made emissions have on our climate. But with this right here, this still helps soothe the concern of your opponent who does not want dirty air and dirty drinking water. Well, okay, so let's invest in technology that captures carbon that may frighten some people and take it out of our air. I'm okay with that to a point. I mean, there's only so much we can remove. I mean, thankfully the trees and the plants, they get the rest of it. So I've made this stance a long time ago. Clean air, clean drinking water, that's what man can control with its pollution. It can't control the climate. So if anything, this is a real Green Deal. This is a little bit more realistic approach. Now, a lot of you diehards out there are going to say, well, what did you give up for this Green New Deal? You didn't give up anything. You're putting more money into investing in technology that's not there. Well, it is there. We reported it a couple weeks ago. Scientists have now figured out how to take CO2 and turn it back into coal. I'm sure that costs a lot of money to do at room temperature or at high temperatures, whichever temperatures they were able to convert, regardless of the fact. If we get serious about technology like that, that's not cheap. Is it worth it? Absolutely. We found a renewable source. If we can take all the man-made emissions and turn it back into energy, are you kidding me? How much is that not worth to you? It's a solution. And people need to continue to understand there's a difference between the nuclear bomb and nuclear energy. Complete difference. It's a lot cleaner than you think. Now, if you can't handle the plant and mishaps happen and you're dealing with infrastructure problems, then yeah, you got a problem with nuclear. I get that. And that's the fight we always get when we talk about nuclear. Well, what happens if an earthquake or what? I get it. I get it. Natural disasters. You got to be careful where you build these things. But anyway, so, last week, like I said, I did a report saying, please don't compromise to this deal. But this doesn't sound like a compromise. This just sounds like that, hey, we are willing to be responsible about fossil fuels that we burn. And we are concerned about the quality of air that we breathe, at least, when you talk about carbon capture. So I think this is a great article. Again, just another flag that we can wave in the air that shows that, You call us climate change deniers, but yet we're responsible. We want to see clean air. We want to see clean water. We want to see renewable energy as well, but we want to do it the right way. If you just pull the tablecloth from under the plates and the flowers, you have to have a lot of practice with that to get that to work on the first pull. And really, the Green New Deal, if it really got approved, it would be like pulling the tablecloth off of the table with the plates on top of it. Am I going to be able to pull this off? I mean, this is no man's land right here. This policy, everything that we're talking about with this, no man's land. All right, so this is great. So these next two articles go back to back. Senate Democrat sponsors Green New Deal, and they plan to vote present. And I remember reading this. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? Because I know the McConnell, his strategy for this was to get every Democrat on record to voting for a Green New Deal that would kill the economy and potentially harm the well-being of American citizens all over the United States. This was a political strategy by the Republicans to put these people on record. So the rumors started. We're going to vote present. What? Vote present? What does that even mean? Oh, it means that 57 Republican senators voted to thumbs down the green. Okay? And 0 nays. Oh, I'm sorry, 0 yeses. So 57 nays, 0 yeses, but 43 present votes. Okay? So instead of the Republicans trying to one-up the Democrats for the campaign to come here in 2020, the Democrats attempted to spin it back around on them as if to show you that the Republicans are evil because they all voted no for this. They voted no to your children's future. They voted no to clean air. They voted no to renewable energy. They voted no to jobs for every American. This was a political chess move, ladies and gentlemen. And it's only the beginning. We are in March of 2019. Can you imagine what March of 2020 is going to be like? If this is the stunt they're already pulling, we are clearly going to see a climate change debate appear during this campaign. You got to hold on to your hats here, folks. A lot's going to get discussed. A lot's going to get disclosed. And this goes back to also the letter that we want to encourage people to contact the White House. Penelope was one of the first people that got my attention on this, but this is a link. We are encouraging people to write the White House and send them a message. And this is in relation to the letter that we read last week on our live broadcast that was sent to Congress, and that was signed by thousands of CEOs and PhDs that are rooting for this climate review commission. And there is a lot of Democratic politicians out there who are scared to death of a review. Some are even shouting, "How dare you want to review climate science? That's a mockery of science," making it like, oh, the nerve of you to want to review something. And it's the claim I made. Hey, what are you afraid of? If you've been telling us for 30 years that global warming is here and it's because of man, and it's true, you've got nothing to fear, right? I mean, we're going to do a review on the information that's provided from you and your organizations. So there's nothing to worry about, right? We're not going to find any manipulation of temperatures, are we, right? Or are we? Several friends of mine, especially the one person I know who works harder about ocean temperatures and monitors the situation is TSM Solar Observations. he's the first one that brought it to my attention that back in 2015 and 2016, we did not have a super El Nino, as some of these weather people have claimed that we had a super El Nino, but it didn't even fit the criteria of a super El Nino. We had a couple of peak temperatures that reached maybe close to 1.8 above baseline Celsius, but never once did they reach 2.0 or higher, and that's what is creating a super El Nino. We had a moderate El Nino in 2015, 2016. It was moderate. There might have been some times where it might have been a little too warm. I do remember in December of 2015, Cleveland, Ohio, December 15th, I was wearing shorts on the shores of Lake Erie watching the Browns defeat the San Francisco 49ers. And 64 degrees was the high. I was wearing a jacket and a pair of shorts, believe it or not. So I remember it was warm, but again, not super El Nino. This stuff gets hyped up bigger than what it should be. Just like we hear things about how cold it is, and that gets hyped up too. A lot of times we see things, it's hard to find the direct truth. It's hard to find just the facts, and without someone trying to make it sound worse than what it is. So anyway, we'll leave a link on our website for you guys. Contact the White House. It says here is message type. This is contact the president. Click on this, move up, select a prefix, Mr., and then you put your name. I'm not going to do one here, but point is, fill it out, Jake Riley, whatever you want to do there. Email if you want, phone number, hey, why not? You want to give him your address? Sure, why not? I'm sure he knows where you live anyway. And then a little box down here that lets you fill out what you want to say. And guys, I think what we need to emphasize here is urge the president to not give up on this Climate Science Review Commission. Tell him Grand Solar Minimum sent you too. Maybe he'll check us out and understand what we're trying to communicate to the people out there. We do have new research. We do need to review this work. We have proof that the temperatures and a lot of things have been cooked to fit agendas to help fund projects through universities and private studies for several years now. Billions of dollars have been spent on a hoax, possibly one of the biggest hoaxes of all time. And that's why they're worried. That's why the Democrats don't want this review. They know what's going to happen. Otherwise, they would welcome it with open arms. All right, guys, stay tuned. We'll be right back with our weather outlook. We'll be right back. All right, tonight we'll start off here at the GFS, and guys, right now, thankfully, we are experiencing some light precipitation in the northwest, and things are kind of leveling out right now in areas that has been bombarded with floodwaters, 50s and 60s, but this is also bad for snow melt, so we don't want to get too hot at this point. Let's make sure we're on the most updated forecast here. And looking at the temperatures for tomorrow on the 27th, again, high pressure across the northeastern part. Temps start to be a little bit more like spring in Colorado, Kansas, parts of Nebraska where we have the floods. So continue to see that spring warm-up temperature, and that cold Arctic blast that I thought we were going to see for the first week of April is not quite as strong as originally thought. So we will, I think, here in the next 8 to 10 days, we will probably see the last bit of this harsh, I don't know about harsh, but cold winter, and spring will finally start to appear in the majority of the United States as we get through parts of, well, this is the first week of April. As you can see, we're seeing 70s and 80s in the deep south. Temperatures now starting to moderate across the country into the 70s and 60s. It's still a little chilly in the northwest still. So continue to watch that as they'll be continuing to deal with their thaw. And definitely there shouldn't be any snow on the ground at this point. and April on the 11th, and that's the temperatures. Now let's take a look and see what kind of precipitation we have on tap here over the next several days. And we'll start with Tuesday here. Let's go back here. All right, so right now we're kind of quiet. We kind of need that. It's been busy as far as when it comes to our weather. We go through Wednesday, kind of quiet. A little bit more action in Northern California, actually, on Thursday, March 28th. And, of course, Washington and Oregon will get scattered showers. Snow across Montana going into Friday. And just a very light system kind of trekking across the northern plains into Nebraska with more moisture that we don't need at this point. Scattered rain before we get the snow, but this does turn into snow as we go into Saturday, March 30th. And here comes some more moisture for Indiana, Illinois, and of course the Ohio Valley. Snow on the top of this. So on the Canadian side of this storm, we're going to see snow, but it's going to stay just above where we need to be. But all the way from Texas to Maine, we will see rain Saturday, March 30th, going into Sunday. And this snow that we're seeing here on the tail end, this is overnight, folks. This is during colder temperatures overnight. I'm not confident at all in how much snow we actually get here in the northeast here. Now, as far as areas, Connecticut, New Hampshire, further into Maine, I believe that you probably will see a little bit of snow, but this is going to be overnight and very light. And of course, temperatures have been above freezing for a while, so that's not going to stick. And then April Fool's Day starts off quiet. Northwest, you start off with another system. We got to watch this system here in the Gulf as it comes through the deep south and kind of gets its act together here by the 2nd of April. Now, another snow system is moving its way into the Rockies by the 3rd of April, and this storm here on the East Coast really gets itself together. And yeah, this is almost pretty much an old-fashioned nor'easter. Now, right now, GFS has this thing just sitting on the edge of our coast. Thankfully, this snow system that's moving through on the 3rd through Colorado and the Rockies is a quick hitter and does not appear to be too much. But again, rain in Nebraska and Iowa, areas that are already flooded and are expected to remain flooded. But looking at this system here, this is what we're going to have to watch here in the coming days. This has all the ingredients for a late season nor'easter, and right now the temperatures are showing that it's going to cooperate for an all rain event until it gets out to Scotia. By that time the storm is gone through the 5th, but I'm not saying that this won't shift. I mean, this is far enough out to where we could see this shift out further in the Atlantic or maybe a little bit further inland where coastal flooding will be a possibility. So this would be more of a rain and flooding and wind event if in fact it does shift a little bit further inland. And we've got a whale of a storm here in the northwest the next weekend, April 6th. Another low pressure system invades the northeast and spreads moisture. More moisture coming up through the Gulf. As one system leaves in northwest, another one enters. So northwest and northern California, once again, we will see heavy precipitation into the beginning of April like we did in the beginning of March and February as well. Another low pressure system also 8 days after the possibility of one nor'easter on the East Coast, we are seeing another low pressure system getting its act together, trying to anyway, and stay on the coast. Now this one's just simply too far out to even tell. But remember, we had 4 or 5 nor'easters last March. This year, last weekend we had a weak nor'easter, and then we're starting to see a couple of returns here where in the future, the first 2 weeks of April, we might have the possibility for 2 nor'easters. Now, these will be rain events, maybe some mixed precipitation. Right now, they don't look to be any kind of major snow events, but if you live in Canada, your winter's not over yet, but here in the lower 48, we do seem to be dodging some bullets, but lots of moisture coming through the United States from the Gulf, across the plains, through the northwest. The Rockies will see some snow off and on through April 9th into the 10th. So I'd like to say that's the last time you guys see snow, the weekend of the 11th. But with the way those jet streams are acting right now and just how the weather has been, it just seems the forecast is changing every 3 to 4 days. So we'll definitely have to keep our eyes on this. So we've got 2 major systems to watch in the coming days. One around the 1st, right here. It kind of gets its act together on the 3rd of April. This one to watch. And then again, about 6 days later, another low pressure system tries to form and get its act together as well. But another large low pressure system coming down from the northern plains into the Midwest, into Iowa, where they don't need the rain. Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee. Tennessee's already seen flooding this year. Again, guys, my huge concern right now is crops and how late are we going to see our farmers in the fields this year. We reported on it last year where we saw farmers jumping into the fields into mid-May, some as early as early June. If I'm not mistaken, Wisconsin was one of those states that didn't get to plant until late May. Montana might have been another place as well. But right now, we're not sure when the flooding is going to stop from the snow melt. Some forecasters are saying some areas across the northern plains in the Midwest could see flooding through middle of May. Have you heard that rumor as well?
What was that?
Talking about flooding through the month of May.
Oh, that's no rumor. NOAA came out and said it.
Well, it's got to be true then, right?
Yeah, well,
If
you know
Noah
what I
said
mean.
it.
I mean, they're telling the truth this time. Obviously, with this moisture, and then considering the snow melt and everything. I mean,
Well, they're telling the truth because
it's,
actually people's lives are probably at stake right now if they don't tell the truth about this.
there's no. What they're flubbing is the historical temps and current capture temperatures. They know what they're doing, but for this kind of stuff,
El Nino.
Jake.
El Nino Region 3-4, still, in my opinion, not El Nino strength. And we saw the increase to reach somewhere in the 1.0 region. Remember, 0.8 to 0.12 is where you need to see it for at least a 3-month run, and we're not even through a month. And these El Nino temperatures are struggling to stay at a 0.742. So very, very weak El Nino, Modaki, whatever you want to call it. I'm not impressed. I don't think we have. I don't think we're gonna have to see. TSM Solar Observations shared with me as well too, and I agree with him. We're not gonna see anything drastic this summer when it comes to global temps. We might see a slight uptick on Dr. Roy's reports over the next couple of months, but it's not going to put us back into the part where we're talking about. I'd be shocked if we went up to 0.6 or higher in the anomaly. I doubt that's going to happen. We're still right there at 0.36 above baseline. So with the summer forecast that I saw from weather.com, they're really relying on this IBM computer that they're using to forecast their temperatures. And what was interesting is that when NOAA was still predicting a warmer winter in most places for the United States, I noticed that that's when the Weather Channel all of a sudden flipped, like, we're going to use this IBM thing because it seems to be working. And then they started talking about solar cycles and this IBM computer and how it's going to be colder in the winter than what they thought. And now weather.com is saying that for the majority of the central United States, from Texas all the way up to Montana, we're talking about slightly cooler than normal temperatures for the summertime. As far as the east and the northwest, it's slightly above. Parts of the northwest was going to be cooler slightly, but nothing jumping out like how NOAA was trying to tell us that majority of the country was going to be 40% warmer than usual, and that didn't happen. Just like El Nino, they were 90% confident that it was forming in October, and that didn't happen. They even raised it to 60%. They dropped it to 60, trying to be realistic, and that wasn't enough. And then they rose it right back up to 90% because they saw indications that they were going to get their atmosphere and their temperatures. They're going to get their acts together and couple and all that good stuff, and voila, a slight El Nino. So, anyway. We'll just continue to watch this, guys. This is already an interesting start to our spring. We've had record snows. I think this winter was a more constant cold. It was a more constant snow. I think the areas that used to see snow on the ground from January to March probably got their first average looking or above average looking winter in most places. I know the Northeast, if you talk to the locals, they've seen worse. You talk to a Midwestern like me, to actually experience seeing snow covering the ground for 3 straight months. I didn't even do that in Buffalo last year. We had, fortunately, we had a couple thaws in between. This stayed pretty constantly cold up here, so it was an interesting winter for me, but I know other places as well. And when you're talking about Colorado, 144% above its snowpack, wow. Very, very large concerns. We've already had flooding all over the United States, if you think about it too, guys. Arizona saw flooding. California has seen flooding. We've seen flooding in parts of Washington and Oregon, Montana. Minnesota's on alert. Wisconsin's on alert. Places that have heavy snowpack that are going to see warming temperatures, especially across the Central Plains. The warm-up is going to be focused from Colorado to Missouri and from Texas all the way up to the Canadian border. So we're going to start seeing these rapid temperature increases, swelling rivers, and of course, on top of that, we have rain moving in across the country, several different systems that's going to bring us precipitation over the next several weeks. And I'll go ahead and put this in motion one more time for us. A couple days, we get some quiet, we get some more action here this weekend across the Midwest into the Northeast. And then, of course, that possible storm on the East Coast, we could be dealing with that next weekend. More moisture across the plains, more moisture in the Northwest. I mean, we are on a steady line after the 29th of March. We are in a steady line of precipitation and storms moving through the United States almost on an every other day basis. 2 or 3 leave the states, and here comes more. So I see a very active spring, more rain, possibly more snow for the upper northern part of the northern plains. But we shall see. I know I've been wrong a couple times, and I hope I'm wrong now. I hope it settles down a little bit and gets some normalcy, because God knows we need it in Nebraska and Iowa and other places in the Midwest that look like we're about to see some more potential flooding rains. Other than that, I think I got everything I wanted to share tonight. Mari, did you want to say hello to anybody in the chat, or are we good?
I've been giggling and chatting through the whole show, haven't I, G?
I guess so.
Well, hello everyone in the chat. It's always a pleasure. There's all kinds of topics going on in the chat. I have no idea even where to start. Mike, he is an independent truck driver, and he runs out of the Midwest corridor. So he's seen firsthand being a truck driver, delivering supplies to people. Thank you very much. He says the rates right now for trucking are awful, and the flooding has wiped out several places that he gets freight from, and he has to take alternate routes, and it's quite the mess down there. He said he's paying more for everything out on the road. The freight rates are down 30% or more, so he's upset that the food costs are already up. They certainly aren't paying him more to haul everything. So
well, and
it's just interesting to hear firsthand information from the people down in the Midwest, because it is hard to figure out what's real, what's not, and I find social media and the first-hand accounts are the most credible. We've seen some amazing footage, amazing photos, amazing video from people, and it is very unfortunate, the video with the grain mills. Just what a mess. They'll do whatever you can to keep it out, the information away from people. So the footage, I'll post it on our website separate, just not on YouTube. It's just really makes you think perspective. It can happen anywhere, these floods, and it's just truly devastating to see these farms suffer. And I don't think we could talk about it enough, and I really do feel it's being downplayed and sort of hushed up a bit. It just doesn't seem, I don't know.
No, you're
it's
right.
Upsetting.
You're right. There's too many other unimportant things that are being highlighted in our mainstream media, and meanwhile, this truck driver, he's legitly talking something we've been warned about from 2 years ago, and that is when we start seeing crops being wiped out, you're flooded out, you can't get deliveries to and from, you've got to find alternate routes, you're spending more on fuel, you're spending more time to get there, but you're not getting paid more money for it. So what comes next? Possibly a freight strike. I mean, I'm not trying to fear it up, but that's legit. If you raise, like I've noticed too, I drive a lot more than usual, and gas prices have went up 20 cents in the last 2 weeks. So we're almost back up to $3 a gallon. We're at $2.65. I saw as high as $2.69. So, sorry, Mari, I didn't mean to jump in front of you there.
No, I mean, there's a lot of other people talking about different topics. Just want to say hi to everyone. I'm not going to really dive into it. It's 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night.
It's time to roll. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you tuning in, Mari. Thank you for your animated report at the end of the show. As always, appreciated.
Animated for sure, Jake. Thanks for
your
brilliant commentary too.
We gotta put you on a camera sometime. You know, folks need to know.
I got a radio voice.
Mari has got she's got a mojo about things. You know, the way she moves, it's adorable.
Sassy, aren't
it? It is sassy. All right, that's enough of us gushing over each other. Please like and share tonight's broadcast, and stay tuned for tomorrow as we will have another solar update. Give you a quick update on today's headlines and what's going on with our space weather. We will be back Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, we will talk soon. Take care, everybody.